unfortunate is they have lost consistently. They lost the Ripple case on everything they cared about. I mean, even the soundbite you just had up, your Chair Gensler is saying that a lot of these are securities. What the courts have said in the cases they have brought, and certainly the case with Ripple and the token XRP, the court determined that XRP is not in and of itself a security. Well, look, I think for whatever reason, the SEC decided to make Ripple their first major case around this. And look, the reality prior to the case, we had been advocating for more clarity around the rules and regulations. And the good news has been other countries around the world have leaned into that and codified what should the rules and regulations, what's unique about crypto that needs to be changed. The SEC, frankly, has just hired more litigation that, what we call regulation through enforcement.
Since we have made significant progress, it is worth returning to your case with the SEC initially. How would you characterize the evolution of the conflict as of this very moment, February 20th? Regrettably, they have been defeated time and time again. Regardless of how much they cared, they lost the Ripple case. Gensler has already stated that many of these are securities in the audio clip you just played. The courts have ruled in several cases that Ripple's token, XRP, is not a security. This ruling applies to all of these cases. It seems to me that the SEC chose Ripple as the subject of their first significant case for some purpose. Prior to the lawsuit, we had been pushing for more regulation clarity, and it's great news that other countries have jumped on board and formalized the rules and regulations that should apply to crypto, taking into account what makes it special. To be quite honest, the SEC has recently increased its litigation staff, which it refers to as regulation enforcement, and has begun suing a large number of individuals. It is difficult to say if it will end up in court or not. We prevailed over the SEC on all fronts that mattered to us. Is an appeal by the SEC likely to result in a higher court case? I guess we'll find out. They wanted to do an interlocutory appeal, so they asked for permission to do it. That was likewise rejected by the courts. With prejudice, the charges against Chris Larsen were dropped. In my opinion, the SEC has been perpetually unsuccessful. The Grayscale lawsuit was lost by them. If you've been keeping up with the Coinbase case, you might have noticed that the judge seems to be rather dubious of the SEC's claims. In my opinion, it will come to an end when either the SEC acknowledges that they are continuously losing or when Congress steps in and passes new laws. In an interview with Bloomberg, Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said that the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission has already lost the ongoing battle, which might have major consequences for the price of XRP. Furthermore, he elaborated on the recent advancements in the legal system and how they relate to the ongoing issue. During the interview, Garlinghouse mentioned that the Securities and Exchange Commission had lost the Ripple lawsuit on all of their priority issues. He brought up the court's ruling that XRP isn't a security asset. Furthermore, Ripple's CEO said that the government agency's resolve to keep fighting what he sees as a lost battle will decide the litigation's conclusion. According to Ripple's CEO, the SEC has lost all relevance. A lengthy and contentious court battle has been going on between Ripple and the SEC for quite some time. The digital asset market is holding its breath in anticipation of a resolution, as neither side is willing to budge from their positions. There was widespread expectation at the start of 2024 that a resolution would be reached with far-reaching precedent-setting consequences. This might be a huge deal for XRP, as Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse said in an interview with Bloomberg that the SEC has already lost the lawsuit. More precisely, he said that the agency has failed on all fronts that mattered to them, suggesting that Ripple has won all relevant judicial judgments. Following that, inquiries about a potential timeline for a resolution and the possibility of intervention from higher courts were directed towards Garlinghouse. Secondly, regarding all matters of importance, Ripple's CEO made the following statement: the SEC lost to us. Is an appeal to a higher court in the works for the Securities and Exchange Commission? We'll have to watch what happens tomorrow. He further noted that the SEC's attempt for an interlocutory appeal against the verdict had already been rejected by the courts. Also, he brought up the fact that Brad and Chris Larsen were both hit with prejudice in the settlements of their respective claims. Lastly, Brad stated that the SEC will formally relinquish power in the event that one of two things happen. He went on to say that the group needs to accept the fact that they are perpetually losing or risk congressional interference. He expressed optimism about the former while admitting his skepticism about the latter. In a recent interview with Bloomberg, Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple, voiced his disapproval of the SEC's move against them. In his explanation, Garlinghouse explains why Ripple has had little choice but to depend on court rulings in order to gain clarity regarding regulations and a potential XRP exchange-traded fund. Even if the price of XRP dropped 1% on Wednesday, it stayed the same at 0.55. The SEC, the Ripple lawsuit, and the prospect of an XRP exchange-traded fund were all addressed in a statement issued by Brad Garlinghouse, Chief Executive Officer of Ripple. The payment remittance provider just acquired standard custody in an effort to join the Bitcoin custodian industry. The XRP price stayed over the 0.555 mark throughout Wednesday's trading. According to Ripple's CEO, the company has won the battle with the SEC. In his view, the payment remittance company Ripple has won the SEC Ripple litigation on important issues, according to Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse. The order that Judge Annalisa Torres made on July 13th, treating XRP as if it were not a security in its secondary market operations, is probably what Garlinghouse is referring to. In an interview with Bloomberg, Garlinghouse said that the SEC has lost every lawsuit it has brought against Coinbase and Ripple in the SEC versus Ripple fight. The discovery phase of the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, which was associated with possible remedies, has concluded as of Wednesday. The payment remittance company has been regulated in many ways by enforcement and legal orders, as Garlinghouse mentioned throughout his presentation. The CEO of Ripple discussed the possibility of creating a Ripple ETF and indicated his desire for one during a Tuesday interview with Bloomberg. In his call for greater transparency about cryptocurrency regulation, Garlinghouse claims that the Securities and Exchange Commission will soon realize that it has consistently lost lawsuits filed against Bitcoin companies. Famous author Charles Gasparino claims that Ripple's legal fight against the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) has been fruitless. The prevailing opinion is that this claim is false. Contrary to popular belief, Gasparino thinks the ruling is ridiculous, casting doubt on Ripple's legal triumph. Despite a recent ruling stating that XRP is not a security, this remains the case. Judge Torres' utterly foolish decision that divided the baby, the Southern District's laughing stock, meant that retail XRP investors were temporarily victorious, as he put it. Looking at the court's decision, the conclusion of the dispute involving Ripple and the SEC seeks was that the digital asset associated with Ripple is not a security. Brad Garlinghouse and Chris Larson, two executives at Ripple, were cleared of charges of violating securities laws, and the verdict came after an unsuccessful effort by the Securities and Exchange Commission to appeal the ruling. Contrasting with Adam Baks's criticism of BlackRock's Ethereum exchange-traded fund, Gasparino's interpretation casts doubt on the outcome, characterizing the decision as illogical and securing its reception in the legal community, much like a Bitcoin evangelist. When it comes to the evolution of digital currencies, he thinks that traditional securities law may be missing something. Members of the XRP community responded to the journalist's opinion with a tidal wave of indignation when faced with dissent. Crypto attorney Bill Morgan made the comment during his argument that the ruling was well received by the legal community as a whole. He used XRP's credibility as a cryptocurrency to distinguish it from a security. Crypto law's defense of the verdict included the argument that most XRP transactions do not meet the criteria to be classified as securities. Many people in the XRP community went after Gasparino with ad hominem assaults. However, despite ongoing legal battles with the SEC, Ripple maintains a combative stance. That's all for now.